the church is expressed in a number of cultures, as many cultures as there are in the world, and it also has its own culture. I think an early lesson for me was that in times we are too enculturated in an area, or better put, we enculturate, we take part in the culture of an area without being critical. I'll give you an example. Early on in my service, I visited Chile. Chile has a particular history, and what I noticed was the leadership of the Redemptiorist province there had been elected on the 35th ballot. The provincial had received no votes on the first 34. So, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out this is one divided group of people. And a few days later, I was walking around in the garden in Santiago with this sacrificial lamb. And I said, Raul, what happened? What was going on in that assembly or the chapter that elected you, that there was such polarization? And he said to me, you have to understand our history. We lived under a military dictatorship from 1973 to about 1988, 89, so just a few years before I visited. And he said, we hated it. We preached against the military. We did everything we could to make them fall. Some of us even went to jail, put our lives on the line. But without us being aware of it, their way of thinking penetrated us. So that now we treat each other like military juntas. It's something like the old phrase of Nietzsche, who says, if you want to battle monsters, ensure that you don't become one. And I think around the world, the tension is always the gospel taking flesh alongside values that are antithetical to the gospel. I saw this in Eastern Europe, where people hated the communists, but they learned a lot from the communists. And that sort of suspicion that is endemic in most of the communist societies I've visited penetrated the church. In Africa, we have great struggles with ethnic rivalries, which even express themselves in the conferences of bishops. So I think one thing that I learned is the church has to undergo a constant conversion. And in North America, we struggle with materialism and consumerism, that we live to consume. Well, that can also become part and parcel. Now, there's some very bad things that are being pushed here in the United States these days. Sort of xenophobia and fear of the other. As church people, we have to say that doesn't jive with the gospel. We have to speak out about it.